we're going to get started. So we're going to introduce this amazing panel of experts here who have a serious amount of miles under their belt. Brad Marsh, Emma Sanderson, and Simon Hull. So thank you guys for coming along tonight. So just to introduce these amazing sailors, we'll kick off with Emma Sanderson. Emma, at just 23, was chosen as a crew member on board Tracy Edwards' all-girl Royal Sun Alliance that attempted to win the Jules Verne Trophy. Great attempt, but unfortunately the masting, the Southern Ocean kind of stopped that. Damn, so close.
Close to the record.
Very close to the record. In 2003, Emma became the first British woman and the youngest person to complete the 29,000-mile around-alone yacht race. We're just about to do 119 miles, so I think that in itself deserves a bit of a round of applause. 119, did I say 119?
Yeah.
I did, excellent. And you spent more than 132 days at sea on an open 60 named Pindar, which is after your sponsor, and you were the only woman in a fleet of 13.
Yeah, I think 14.
14.
Yeah,
I need to get my facts right.
Yeah.
Simon will probably pull me up on my facts as well, I'm sure.
But that was in 5 different legs. That wasn't all in one go, 130 days.
Then that's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was enough.
I mean, most people need a rest after 119 miles. And Emma is married to Doyle Sales owner Mike Sanderson, and they have 3 kids, and their eldest, Merrick, is now getting involved in the Cherub. We just need to convince the others to let the horses go and get back into sailing. So that's Emma. Yay! Brad Marsh began his career as a rigger in the America's Cup in the ocean race and is now considered a professional yet semi-retired sailor.
Getting too old.
Brad has won the Volvo Ocean Races Bowman on Groupama, and he's done pretty well in plenty of the world's other great races, including Fastnet, Transpac, and the Sydney Hobart. But most importantly, Brad has done 10 PIC Coastal Classic yacht races in all sorts of boats. I heard that you did it in a PIC?
Yeah, it's called the Cockleshell Hero Trophy for the smallest boat in the fleet.
Yeah, well done. Okay.
It was a long way.
I hope you didn't run out of ice or anything.
We had plenty of beer, but not enough food.
Seems to be the way. You also did it on 8.5 Hooters and Young 11 and some of the fastest boats visiting New Zealand, including Bojes and Caro. And you're currently working for Sail GP as Operations Manager here in NZ. Cool. And you are also into sailing with your partner, your wife Robin. You and her just did the mixed double-handed sand series.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun in our young 88, the Danger Zone, and doing the mixed doubles for the 2 of the 3 races that were put on, and really enjoyed ourselves. It was good fun.
Nice one. Give that guy a round of applause. He's okay. We'll get to that.
Still married.
And Simon Hull. This guy needs no introduction. Does everyone here know Simon?
Yes.
Yes.
Once more.
Does everyone here know Simon?
Yeah. Absolutely.
In case you don't know, Simon has raced at least 30 PIC Coastal Classics and has been the first to arrive in Russell at least 8 times, okay, setting several records.
Great. Well done. It's sitting on the feet.
as well as winning your division at least 10 times.
Yeah.
So would that make you a coastal legend?
For sure.
For sure.
What do you reckon?
Yes.
However,
Just
you
the
know
machinery
you
mostly.
know you're going to get a little bit of banter
Yeah,
from
yeah,
me
here
tonight,
we
so
go.
just be prepared. Until last year, you held the record,
Correct.
but you lost it.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that a little bit later. Simon is also the global board member for ZIC. On the committee?
Committee.
The global committee.
No, on the committee.
On the committee for ZIC. which is the high performance and extremely stylish technical gear that you guys should all get your hands on before the race. You're also a committee member at Yachting New Zealand, and you're on the committee at the Multi-Hull Yacht Club of New Zealand. So you do okay. Let's give Simon a round of applause. Tonight as well, we also have Megan Kensington, who is your principal race officer. Megan, give us a wave. And we have Daniel Garner from PIC Insurance Brokers as well. This is Daniel here. And we'll get them both up here a little bit later on. Right, kicking it off. I did have a question to start off with you, Simon, but I'm going to be a little bit nice. For most of us, sailing is usually done in the confines of the Hauraki Gulf. Not a lot of people get an opportunity to race some serious miles that you guys have done. Emma, just starting off with you, what set of skills does it take to be a good long-distance sailor?
I think preparation is going to be the key. Looking ahead to your race and know roughly, boat speed wise, where you're going to be, what the tide's going to be doing and things, so that obviously will help a lot as you go up the coast. Luckily, you're not going to spend more than a day, hopefully, doing your race up the coast.
Yeah, highly ending.
I'm intrigued, how long did it take you?
I remember finishing, it would have been about midday the second day that we came through. It wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too
Must have
bad.
been 24 hours.
Yeah, so yeah, I think you're not having to look too far ahead to the whole thing. But yeah, certainly a bit further ahead than your races around the Gulf.
So the coastal is 119 nautical miles long, and that it can actually be a long way. You know, as you said, like in a PIC, I mean, that's over 24 hours worth of racing. So how do you keep focused when you're cold, wet, exhausted, and hangry? Anyone?
Well, I think the first part to that is not getting yourself in that position. You've got to drink before you're thirsty. If you get to a point where you are cold and wet and hungry, then you've only got yourself to blame. So make sure you've got the equipment you need not to get cold and wet and hungry.
And the good Zeke here.
Good like yeah.
It'll do it.
And the other part is within your crew. Not many of you, I think a couple of people started solo this year, but most of your crew members there and crew mates and people that are supposed to be there to look after you and enjoy the adventure together. So look after your crew and make sure they're looking after you. Again, if you get to a point where you're cold and wet and hungry, they're equally to blame as you are yourself. So look after each other.
So looking after each other, I think, is a big message there. Simon, you usually finish in daylight. How does that differentiate between your race to, say, somebody who might not finish until the early hours of the morning?
It's pretty hard to be sensible at midnight when you finish at afternoon smoko. I can give you that bit, I think. Yeah, it's a completely different race when you've got a short time span like that. So you're just pushing it as hard as you can. The race is at this time of year that we run this race. It's always pretty boisterous. You know, it's quite variable and it's quite boisterous. So it's a lot about the planning that you put into it. You don't know until 2 days out, and even then, it often varies what you're actually going to get. So it's planning. It's as we said, it's getting out there and testing all your reef points and doing all of that stuff beforehand. Testing the crew that you might have, because they often change. It's often the first race of the season. So you know, get out there and do it all beforehand. Not at Cape Brett in 40 knots when you're having to put that reef in is the planning.
So even though it is, I mean, it's not a huge coastal race, it's also not a short coastal race. Do you think that some people can sometimes get a little bit confused between the two and go into it a little bit unprepared?
Oh, sure you can. We get spoiled. The weather forecasting is a lot better than it used to be, but yeah, it can be either. It can be both. You know, it can be a 24-hour race and 50 knots at the Brett, or it can be you're finishing in daylight or soon after dusk, and it's pretty easy. You've skidded all the way up if it's a southwesterly, and maybe you've had a little beat into the bay. Southeasterly, it's a jibe at the Brett, and it's easy. So yeah, it can be all of those, and yeah, I think I guess the one thing I've seen from some of the variation in different races is you'll get all of those at different times. Mostly it's a sou'wester and it's pretty easy and it's flattish water, but when you get that nor'easter and it's 30 or up to 50, it's a completely different race and you've got to respect that, and most people don't go, and if they do, most of them don't finish.
Who was out there for last year's race? It was pretty heinous at the start, wasn't it? Who is doing the race for the first time this year? Here. Game 1, guys. It's going to be amazing. You're going to love it. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be glamour conditions, downwind all the way, dolphins, t-shirt, shorts, beautiful weather, 100%. Simon, just quickly back to, we tell the truth up here. So you did hold the record, and then you lost the record, but it's you. How are you planning on getting it back?
It's going fast, probably the starting point.
Well, I was hoping for an announcement of maybe a new boat or something, but just sail faster.
Yeah, just go.
All right, keeping your lips
I need a
sealed.
boat though.
But you do tend to do the racing record times. Do you think it is easy to become complacent about what's ahead when you know you're going to have a fast race?
Yeah, you can, and the big one that always catches us out or has caught us out traditionally is the Cape Brett park up. That you know, every time you're in a sou'wester, you say, right, this year we're going to be 6 miles off at the Brett. We're not going to get sucked in there, and it just gets lighter and lighter and goes left as you get north, and you get sucked into the Brett. And only once have we ever gone through without seeing all the lemons up. And it's there. It's a massive piece of earth, and it usually catches you, even when you try and go around it. So, yeah, it's easy to get complacent, and you know, you can have 30, 35 knots and big seas across Breed Bay, and then by the time you get to the Brett, you're in 10 knots and getting becalmed. It often happens that way.
And Emma, for you, for someone who has done so many miles on your own, what sort of advice would you give to people sort of going into this race who are going to go alone and do it short-handed?
I think, again, it's just that preparation. Just make sure, you know, you practice everything you think you might come across and more. And again, practice reefing and practice man overboards if you're double-handed, not if you're single.
That'd be a little bit difficult, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's like clip on, clip on, clip on.
Yeah, I mean, safety equipment is huge. Just make sure you've got everything you need, and EPIRBs and things. Of course, you know, especially if you're in one of the faster boats, you've got plenty of boats coming up behind you. So, yeah, I think really the preparation, and just make sure you are placing yourself. You know, just know where you're going, and make sure, you know, racing-wise, that you aren't getting sucked into the Brett. Or actually, I came down in my around alone, solo, coming in. I got the biggest storm. I'd been becalmed around the top of Cape Reinga, and then came down to Cape Brett and got absolutely hammered. And I would have still been 5 or 6 miles offshore and got just hammered. It was one of my worst.
Hang on, the Cape Brett is beautiful. Sunshine, birds, dolphins.
Yeah, this is a totally different time of year. This was a New Year storm or something. Yeah.
So you do need to be prepared for basically anything.
Anything can happen. So just be prepared and just hope for a good forecast.
So just a question for Brad and Emma, because Simon, like you pointed out, you usually finish by lunchtime. But for Brad and Emma, sorry,
Smoker.
but for Brad and Emma, what kind of changes do you recommend making to your boat and your setup as you transition from that daylight sailing into nighttime sailing?
Yeah, I would, from my experience, I think that transition is actually really important, and doing it early is one thing I'd always recommend. Kind of when you wait for things to happen, they're going to happen quicker than you think. And for example, for me, I put a head torch around my head and have it on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because anything can happen at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, that it gets dark quickly and you can't find your head torch downstairs. I put an extra layer of thermals on at 4 o'clock and just have these targets that you're hitting. Even if you're warm, put the warm clothing on, because if something happens, the next thing the sail falls down into the water, or the spinnaker pole breaks or something like that, by the time you've actually recovered and fixed the problem and got going again, it's now dark, it's now cold, you haven't even realised it, but you can't find your head torch. You are cold, you can't find your thermals, you're scrambling around downstairs and you're trying to put your thermal top on, and you get halfway through it and you realise you're actually putting your pants on your head or something stupid because you can't see it, you can't see what's going on. So I think the biggest thing for me in the long distance races is always think ahead to what the next step is, what's going to happen next, and do it before you need to do it. As I say, it's better to be warm than it is to be cold.
Yeah, I agree. And then your thought processes actually get worse as you get colder and add a bit more stress. And the adrenaline doesn't always push you the right way. It can push you towards more stress rather than thinking clearly. So yeah, have a bite to eat before you're starving. Put more clothes on before you're cold.
Drink before you're thirsty.
Yeah, just everything is preparation. Do it all before you think you need it all. And again, chat to your mates on board and check everyone's got everything they need. And yeah, if you're going to go on through the night, and some people are going to have their 20-minute naps or whatever, make sure you're not all really tired at the same time. So let someone go down. And
yeah, I think that's a really good point, Simon. Maybe not you would know about it as well, though, but where it is a race that it is sort of a bit too long to be a short race, it's a bit too short to be a long race. I think boats, there are a lot of boats out there that you can benefit by putting someone downstairs in a quarter berth and having a sleep while the going is going well. Again, it's like putting a thermal top on before you get cold, or putting your head torch on before it's dark. Get some people down to sleep when you have an opportunity. Even if the race has started in the morning and you put someone going downstairs to sleep at 2 o'clock, you know that when you want them, when they're back up on deck at 5 o'clock in the morning, that you can trust them, that you can rely on them. There's no point having 10 or 12 people on board that are all just slowly fading away. And by 5 o'clock, when you're beating up wind into Russell, you got the wind against tide, and it's a little bit tactical. You got a boat next to you that you really want to beat, but everyone is just completely zombie. You really wish that someone had asleep in the quarter berth, where the waves are still good, they're still stacking, they're still hiking, they're still there, they're still helping, but they're going to be more beneficial than all.
So just on that then, just talking about being focused and staying focused for the duration of the race, like you said, it's not quite a long race, it's not quite a short race. I've seen plenty of sailors before long races just do a quick duck down to the supermarket, get what you need, throw in the Coke, throw in the pies and the pizzas and the lollies and the chocolate and anything like that. How important is it to make sure that your crew is actually eating healthy during the race?
If you want a good performance at the prize giving, they've got to look after themselves during the race.
That's what we were going for, well done. Simon, for you, I mean, you do have a great track record in this race. What sort of preparation would you put your crew through, say a month beforehand? We're a month out from the race now. What would you guys be doing to make sure that every single one of those bodies on board is ready to go?
Usually a month out, we're actually choosing the crew, knowing who's going to be doing what. We're going out, putting all our reefs in, doing reefing manoeuvres, generally trying to go and find some breeze, so you're doing it in breeze, and running through all of those manoeuvres, because you might go all the way up the coast and only do one jibe or one tack under pressure, as Brad said, when you're beside a boat that you're really trying to beat. But if you muck it up, if you cock it up, that's the race. So you've got to have done that, and you want to go out and bang a whole bunch of those in, all your jibes, put all your reefs in, check everything's preset with the people doing it in the same positions. If you can actually get out and do some night racing as well, even better. You know, I mean, what Brad was saying before is absolutely right. Unless you're going to be finished before midnight, we never used to run a full court press. You'd put some guys down, 2 or 3, and as long as they're on the weather side, I mean, now talking V5 days and that sort of stuff for sure. Otherwise, you're just going to be, lacking in performance at the end of it. So yeah, you're going out and doing all of that sort of stuff, checking all your sales. For us, or for most of us, it's your first race of the season, big race of the season. So your boat's coming out of winter, everyone's a bit dusty, and go out and do it all, and press the boat up and do all that stuff.
Just to echo the point made about reefing and having the reefing systems good and working well. I can say that one of my most embarrassing races I've ever done was, well, for me personally, not in a spectacle, but personally, was when the Sydney to Hobart on the Wild Oats 100, and we, on the first night out, again, right next to 300 footers lined up right next to each other. Sydney's score was coming in, and all we had to do was just to decrease the amount of sail we had up. And as a team, we completely cocked up the reefing. Reefing a main should be the most simple process you can possibly do, and it's also the most beneficial. We completely cocked it up. The main came down in pieces, battens were broken and a whole lot, and there was a full squad of professional sailors who were supposed to be the best in the world at what we could do, and we were returning to Sydney Heads with a boat that we couldn't even reef in. In a race that we really should have gone on to win with our conditions to go. And there was nothing more embarrassing than returning home, motoring into Sydney Heads, pulling into Woolwich Dockyard, and there was a full media everywhere. And there were 16 of us with our head down trying to explain why we couldn't reef the mainsail.
Oh, Dave, I think you just got an exclusive. That must have been pretty heartbreaking. So from that experience then, I mean, a race like the Coastal, you're not going to make a decision 2 weeks out and say, let's get on the start line. How long would you want people to prepare? Like, we have a few first timers here. How much preparation time should they have already put in? I'll probably put this one to you, Emma, because you had to do a lot of it on your own, make sure that your boat was ready to go, fully self-contained and ready. How much preparation went into something like that?
Oh, we would have spent 6 months easy on a boat that's already done these kind of races, and that's planning a long way out. I think if you were starting from scratch and you haven't ever taken your boat up the coast, you really want to have worked out all your safety equipment and your reefing points that you might never use in the harbour. There'll be all sorts of things that you need to start and really start thinking about. We used to have to talk about exactly how much fuel for your generator, for your power per day, but we're not quite at that.
But it's also about restocking for the trip home as well. Like making sure that you've got everything you need to actually do the long motor home, which sometimes that is, or to sail home or go cruising for the weekend.
Yes, exactly. Good planning for your weekend up in Bear Island.
Well, yeah, Russell can sell out of beer pretty quickly, so you want to make sure you've got plenty of stocks or someone to deliver that up for you. Brad, you recently won the Doyle Sales Mixed Two-Person Trophy in the Sands Triple Series. Congratulations, well done. Round of applause. Well, we're going to get to that in a second, but yes, your wife did do most of the work. We saw that from the videos. But what made you guys choose to take that on in the two-person sailing, with Robin? Is it got anything to do with Paris 2024? Are we seeing a little preview?
No.
Whatever.
No, honestly, for being overseas for so long and campaigning and spending a lot of time out in New Zealand, it used to always, whilst this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere summer we're doing our regattas and everything, I'd still be watching what was happening at home. And the sands and the media and all the things that came out of that always appealed to me as a fantastic event, of course, along with Coastal. But when we came back to New Zealand and decided to settle ourselves down here a bit more, and that's why I call myself a semi-retired sailor now, buying a young 88 was the first thing that we did to take our family cruising and to spend some time on the water with our friends again. So the next thing was to do the sands, and when it came up to doing the sands, I sort of mentioned it to my wife and said, oh listen, I'd like to do the sands racing, and she said, well, you can't have a lead pass. I said, well, you've got one, why can't I? She said, well, what do you mean I've got a lead pass? I said, well, you're coming with me, we're going together. So we had to find a babysitter, and it was good fun to spend some time with Robin and and do the events. The racing's fantastic. We had our moments, of course, as you would imagine, everyone starting with their wife or husband. There were times when
Shall we talk about a moment in particular, or?
there were a couple of times where I really wanted to yell at her and I knew I shouldn't.
How many times were you wrong?
Most of the times, yeah. But
I heard that too.
one particular moment I think was well documented was I turned around and gave Robin a little bit of a squeal for I was down the lure and I'm pulling the kite in on a tight reach and it got a bit too tight, so we decided to drop the kite. I'm pulling it in and I'm just starting to touch the water and I feel like I'm doing a bad job and it's all about to go really bad. I said, "Oh, Robin, please, use the halyard." She said to me, "I'd love to, but at the moment the stovetop's still tangled and it's caught in the keyboards." And the halyard was sitting downstairs, which we hadn't caught, hadn't got ready for the manoeuvre, and managed to catch the stovetop, and the whole stovetop had come flying out the hatch and I'm trying to pull the kite down. But
So how did that debrief go? Post-race, what can we learn going into the next race? Just talk us through that post-race debrief.
yeah, it's a pretty simple one. Basically call the halyard and have it ready for any situation, anything that comes up. Again, thinking of the next step ahead. But I think the two-handed stuff is absolutely fantastic. I think that it's good prep and good, getting seamanship skills and all that sort of carry on that go on. Again, the Coastal Classic is going to be a race that draws on every single person's seamanship skills on the way up there. The best people that win the races and win the trophies and the divisions are the people that are combining together best well with all the skill sets they have at the time. That's why I need to go sign with my wife. She's got a better skill set.
Harry's just going to give us a quick little rundown on the cruising rally, just in case you're thinking about ditching your race boat next year and cruising up to Russell.
Right guys, nice to see you, some of you made it in treacherous conditions over the bridge. Definitely not ideal. Probably almost more pleasant going up the coast than 30 knots than sitting in that traffic. So the Coastal Classic Cruising Rally. It's our 4th year running. We've got a record fleet of 18 boats this year. Ranges from all sorts. People that used to be die-hard racers, from people that are just keen to jump in and enjoy the experience up the coast. We've got Emma out the back there. She's going to do her first Coastal Classic with her dad in the cruising rally. So Frankie as well, wherever she's run off to, there she is. She might jump on this year. It's just a really great race. Starts at 8 AM. You've got your own start, so you don't have to watch out for Simon calling starboard, doing 30 knots coming towards you. So you start at 8 AM, make your way up the coast. Obviously, as I mentioned before, you've got 4 hours motoring time, so when you hit Cape Brett, when you've run out of wind, open the bottle of rum and turn the engine on and keep going into Russell for the party. There's some awesome things to do on the way up. We've got a few competitions running this year. First and foremost is a fishing competition, so if you snatch yourself a good kingy or something on the way up, keep her, take a photo, bring her into the dock, some good prizes there. We've also got a crew dress competition, so get your crew coordinated and dress up in some fancy dress. Prizes to be won there as well. Also going to be some spot prizes, which are always fun to win, as well as a photo competition. Obviously in Russell we'll gather and have a meet and greet of all your other cruising rally competitors. It's a good night out, some drinks and share experiences up the coast. Tell stories of watching all the serious racers wiping out, broaching, screaming, all the antics that the full racing brings. But it's a very relaxed, fun way to make it up the coast. Obviously preparation is still key, still out there cruising up the coast out of the elements, as these guys will all agree. But yeah, it's a great event, so it's growing every year, so obviously not everyone can make it here tonight, so tell your friends or family with other boats racing or cruising. It's open to all and everyone. No PRH here for any of that fancy stuff. I think I got that right.
You did good.
Dyslexic, I guess. but yeah, should be good. So looking forward to seeing that fleet grow over the next few years, and should be good.
Nice one.
See you at the sideline.
Just about to say, far out. I mean, going up on one of these new Melgy Sporties would be pretty exciting, but I think Harry's just sold me on cruising. So speaking of, all of these new boats that we've had joining the fleet recently, especially these new 4 Melgy Sporties, they're going to be arriving with their goal to be on the start line for the Coastal. Simon, what sort of big changes have you seen this race take on since it started and since the 30 years that you've been doing it?
Oh, massive changes. I mean, boats have changed, haven't they? No one's foiled up there yet, but maybe one day.
Yes.
You never know. Yeah, I mean, boats.
I feel like crying you a little bit earlier for something.
There's nothing happening. No, I think it's fantastic. Our boats are changing all the time and getting faster. The 4 Melgies, and in fact the whole 40-foot division is where there's a lot of activity currently, and they're going to have some fantastic racing. But like every other race, particularly a coastal race like that, the guys who are best prepared and turn the corners the best, there'll be 2 or 3 key moments that someone makes a mistake and someone doesn't, and that'll win and lose that race. It always does.
There's also been some huge environmental changes. We've all changed the way that we think when we go out onto the water. I mean, what do you guys do differently now? Especially with making sure that all the rubbish stays on board, thinking about what you actually take with you. What sort of stuff goes into thinking about preparing your food and what waste to not waste, basically?
Sure, no rubber bands, even down to how we're wooling our kites, etc. But yeah, and Russell's very, very aware. I know Russell's very aware of the whole rubbish situation, and there's going to be a whole protocol that all the boats are going to be asked to embrace this year with separating rubbish and so on. But yeah, it's certainly something I think all us yachties are so aware of. When we see rubbish in our beautiful waters that we sail in, there's nothing more disgusting or more more annoying than seeing it, and I'm sure everybody feels the same with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the days when we would just bring in big single-use water bottles, plastic wrapped, and inevitably on the beach at the end of the day there'd be empty water bottles floating around, and it's amazing how quick that has changed. I think everyone's taken that on, so yeah, we need to just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, there's people in this room and doing the race together and heading up there. We're all responsible for ourselves and our own actions in that area. We need to look after the ocean, we need to look after everything that we're using. There's no point worrying about the kids coming sailing with us if we're not looking after the ocean for them later on. So we owe it to each other. Again, if you see your crewmate getting cold or getting hungry, make sure you tell them. If you see them doing something that's not looking after the ocean, well, make sure you tell them that too. It's probably more important. It's so important just to make sure that we're looking after this for the future.
So just basic things like, don't flick that bottle cap over the side, put it somewhere so that you can collect it all. Are you guys all thinking about ways that you can be sustainable whilst doing this race? Has it been something that's been discussed? Got a thumbs up at the back, I've got an arms folded here. Is everybody thinking about that? Good work.
I'm always one for a good story, and I won't keep you too long on this one, but with the group army around the world race, we used to always specialise in making sure that we had just enough food for the finish, and I guess you could call that sustainable, but I lost 7.5 kilos on the leg into Auckland because we got the food ration slightly wrong and didn't have enough food for the last 2.5 days coming in. And I remember it used to always frustrate me when 48 hours out from finishing a leg, and Frank Tomas had this little ritual where he'd come out and we used to have all these energy gels on board, so if you needed a quick boost, you'd have an energy gel, and I totally recommend that for anybody. But Frank really didn't like these energy gels because he felt that the bag of energy gels was far too heavy. And a bag of rice or anything like that, you could throw over the side, no problem, But the energy gels, what could you do? And it was like a Mr. Bean moment on the third leg when he came up, and he just had this brain idea. I know how to get rid of these energy gels. And he spent an hour at the back of the boat, 48 hours before the finish, and he's squeezing the energy gel out. But he wouldn't throw the energy gel in the water, not the packet. He was just squeezing the contents out. He'd keep the packet and put it in a plastic bag, and he went downstairs after an hour with this little bag full of just the packaging only, but all the contents were off the boat and were a little bit lighter.
So not only was the boat lighter, but the crew was lighter as well.
Yeah, and I was missing my sugar shots.
So does a group of guys on board, I mean, how hangry and how horrendous was that situation?
Yeah, you can't, you need food. And hang is not a good thing for anyone. I can attest to that with sailing my wife. But don't let anyone get hangry, don't let anyone get hungry. But I think it's, I'm glad to hear, Simon, of the processes in place when you get to Russell for filtering out the rubbish. I remember the second sand race and we were beating our way up to Gannon Rock. I remember trying to go downstairs and get a sandwich, and it was just chaos downstairs in our boat. Floorboards and water and sails and just crap everywhere because we're going upwind at 30 knots. And I think in that time you can't be expected to recycle. You can't be expected to do things. But I think once you get to the wharf afterwards, it's really important to go through, and maybe everything goes in the rubbish bag, but the rubbish bag gets inspected afterwards, and having that process to actually tidy up properly.
Fantastic. And guys, just one more general question for you guys before we get Megan Kensington and Daniel Garner up. Guys, thinking ahead to the future, if you could describe your ultimate regatta, ultimate race, what would it be?
America's Cup 2020.
2020? 2020 sucks.
It's going to happen.
2021.
Well, 2021. It's going to start in 2020. Let's see it. Let's hope.
Yeah. Oh, for me, it's as we said before, as I said before, spending a lot of time overseas and committing to a career path overseas and away from friends and family and stuff like that. It's nothing better at the moment than to do a regatta, be it a Falling Moth regatta or a Young 88 Sands or Coastal Classic or anything like that, where you can just go back afterwards and you can be having a fun time where everyone's enjoyed themselves, they've enjoyed the experience, whether it be incredibly wild and everyone's just satisfied that they managed to finish it, or whether it be a tactical race that they just enjoy the chess playing nature of it. But to sit back and have a beer and a barbecue with friends afterwards, after any adventure, is probably the best for me, no matter what it is.
Sounds pretty good. America's Cup 2021 and having adventures.
And a beer and a barbecue.
And a beer and a barbecue. Okay guys, well just a massive thank you to Simon Cole, Emma Sanderson and Brad Marsh. Guys, looking forward to seeing you out there, out racing here at home because you can't travel, so you have to stay here. Guys, give these guys a round of applause. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got Megan Kensington and Daniel Garner, two very, very important people in this race. That's because Megan, the buck stops with her. What she says goes. And Daniel, his family and PIC insurance brokers are the reason that this race actually gets off the ground because sponsorship is so vital to the sport. So thank you so much guys for being here tonight. Megan, that fun word that we all have, safety. I'm going to rattle off 3 things. Life jackets, tethers, VHF. Why are they important?
Okay, we'll start with the VHFs. Before the start, we are asking boats to call in and to basically register with us and confirm how many crew they've got on board. With your VHFs, it's really important that you call in at each of their checkpoints. So make sure you know the radio channels in advance. It's the whole preparation thing of don't suddenly go, oh, what channel do I need to be on? So make sure you have those and know them well in advance. We do a tick-off of the boats. So we are tracking and making sure that all the boats make it through all the safety points. And we are looking at the trackers as well. So we are constantly monitoring the boats to make sure everyone's okay. have your radios on board and turned up so that you can hear if anyone has a problem, because if someone has some go overboard or someone has a breakage and they need assistance, sure they can call Coast Guard, but the boats around them are also the closest people to be able to help. So it's really important for your safety as well as the rest of the competitors to make sure you are listening to your radios. It's really vital. So that's really the VHF side of things. This year we have got a dispensation. You don't have to have a life raft, but we will be putting in there that you shall wear life jackets and tethers over 16 knots and after dark. So if you choose not to, then it means that the skipper is totally responsible. We will be saying that means that the skipper is given express permission if you are not wearing those. It's the way things are now. It's not just this race. A lot of races now, we are saying wear your life jackets and be tethered on. It's more important than anything else. And it's, as Brad and Emma were both saying, don't get cold and don't get dehydrated, because it really affects your thinking and it's really, really important. We just want to make sure everyone gets up to Russell really safely. If you do have to pull out, if you have got breakage and you pull out, please call up and tell us, because we will check off all the boats as we go along, and we will be looking for boats if they go missing. So trackers, we missed out on trackers on that list, so trackers, please have you predict when the tracker's going, test them beforehand, have charged up phones, VHFs, life jackets and tethers are the really important things for us.
And the trackers are also really important also for family and friends and media and anybody else overseas. The world's eyes are actually on New Zealand now because we're doing some of the best racing out there. So the trackers are really important for not only safety but for bringing more awareness to what's going on down here and giving our sponsors more coverage.
And before becoming race director, I used to be driving up to Russell anyway, and the amount of times I'd be getting phone calls from wives going, where's so-and-so, because the trackers weren't working. So please, people like watching the trackers, they like seeing the race and they like following the race, so it's really, really great that they can.
Gone are the days where you can just slip into Russell and ring the wife 10 hours later, because she will know that you have finished. And he, whoever, if you're leaving a guy back on shore, he will also know. So unfortunately that is one part of our sport that's changed.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can't get away with it.
Thank you so much, Megan. Is there anything else at all that you would say, safety-wise, that people should just be aware of, and things that you might just...
I think most of it's been said. Look after each other. And it's not just your crew, but look after the boats around you. Don't be silly. It's quite a long race, even though it's a short race.
It's not quite long, not quite short, it's that perfect in between. Thank you so much, Megan. And it takes up...
Douglas got a question.
Oh, yep.
So just monitoring the race, it's channel 16, not what for listening to other boats rather than, the channels that change on the way up, right?
Yes. But also make sure you know the channels for doing the call into Coast Guard. Make sure you have those before you start the race.
Megan, can I tell you a little story? Yeah, about calling in if you retire is one part of the story, but calling in again when you're to safety is perhaps another one. So if you flip over, overturn, withdraw, and then head back to shore and don't make it back to shore because you have another incident. This is a scenario that happened with Dougal.
I was PRO for a Sands race years and years ago, and we found out that one of the multi-hulls hadn't made it home from phone call from the Herald reporter the next afternoon, which is not how you want to learn that somebody didn't make it home.
Yeah, and our contact details are all on the website and on the sailing instructions and everywhere. And when a boat does call in, we would always ask whether they need assistance, and we will be actually finding out whether they're actually okay and okay to get back safely. And all communication, and too much communication is better than no communication.
Absolutely. I mean, I could tell you a couple of incidents as well, but we won't go on. tonight. It's going to be a happy sunshine dolphins t-shirt, shorts, no issues kind of race. Thank you so much.
100% starters and finishers.
Absolutely. It does take a lot of time and effort to be a principal race officer and to also be part of the committee that makes this race happen. So Megan, thank you so much for all the dedicated time as a volunteer to make this possible. Thank you so much. Daniel, we had a little chit chat upstairs, and thank you guys so much for supporting this race, your ongoing support for quite a number of years now. But we had a bit of a yarn about insurance, because it's one of those words, insurance. But tell me, what advice can you give to anyone who is actually looking to get insurance? How can they make sure that they've got the right product?
Pretty simple really, ask lots of questions. Lots and lots and lots of questions. If you've got a broker, just drill them for everything, ask for lots of comparisons and cover. Most people go on price, excess, liability limits, and they don't read the small print. That's what catches everyone out at claims.
So just make sure you read every page and ask the questions.
No, make your broker read every
Make
page.
your broker read. So that's you. And you guys have been supporting this race now for a number of years. Why do you choose to support sailing in New Zealand?
I guess sailing is in our DNA. So the two major sponsorships we have is sailing and rugby. And that just goes with, I guess, everything we do. We're a New Zealand-owned company, and New Zealanders tend to be yachties or rugby players.
I can vouch for that. When I moved over here 9 years ago, I didn't think that New Zealand played any other sports. So it was quite cool. I didn't like rugby and I like sailing, so it worked.
Yep.
Now tell us, are you going to do the race this year?
No, not going to do the race. I haven't actually done the race since we started sponsoring it. The last time I did it was on a 10:20, and it was pretty painful.
Okay, so we're a month out. Who wants to take Daniel with them? There we go, we got it. This is a bit awkward. It's good to have an insurance broker on board. They'll know the right questions to ask.
Yeah.
So what's ahead for PIC, insurance brokers and sailing?
I guess in this sort of pre-COVID world is, who knows what decisions are going to get made. In sailing, for us, I guess it's keeping an eye on the sort of horizon. We're looking at various opportunities around the sort of country. We're big time in the marine, so that's sort of, we want to invest in that and support the community and keep it going. So just keep an eye out for things. Yeah.
And if you haven't got your insurance sorted for the race, you know who to call.
Yep.
PIC insurance brokers. You can find them everywhere. You just need to Google. Is that right?
Yep. Good old Dr. Google. Yep. We'll be on
Dr. Google will sort it out. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your ongoing support of the PIC Coastal Classic as well. And even though you don't do the race, you always manage to make it to the party.
Yep.
We'll see you there. We will see you there. And so, thank you guys so much for that. And just speaking of parties and events and everything else surrounding the PIC Coastal Classic this year, we're going to just ask Emily to come up really quickly and just give a really quick update, and then we have a couple of really fun questions that people have asked that I'm going to put to everybody. So Emily, can you give us a bit of an update on what's happening in this wonderful COVID world we live in? Come stand over here.
Trying to stay. Thanks everyone. Look, we've got over 100 boats entered this year now already, which is fantastic. Compared to the last few years, look, it's tracking really well, obviously given the conditions that we've faced this year. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that, and we've got an amazing lineup of boats already, so we're really excited. If anyone needs race updates, make sure you go onto our website and subscribe to our newsletter. That'll start coming out now more regularly as we head towards the pointy end. I just want to also take this opportunity. We've had a really loyal bunch of sponsors stick with us, and we're particularly grateful this year. We know that some of the marine industry has been really struggling, but our event partners have really stuck with us. Obviously we all know our principal partner PIC. We've got Doyle Sales, Predict Wind, who's doing our tracking, Zyke, our clothing sponsor. There's some great merchandising on our website. 36 Brokers, who we've heard from tonight, Railblazer Mount Gay, B&G, Bernard International, and of course our media partner here, Live Sale Die, Sir Alan. We've got some of our organising committee here this evening, so if you do have any questions, we are here to help you. Particularly for you first timers, if you have got questions, absolutely don't hesitate. We've certainly had a lot of questions in the last few weeks, and certainly here to help. On Monday the 19th, we will be having one final race clinic. That's a night where we basically give the forecast, and there'll be someone calling the tactics on that evening. I think last year's race clinic, certainly the winning formula was given away, so it's a night not to be missed. That's Monday the 19th of October, same time, and we can guarantee there won't be as much traffic. So you can absolutely hold me to that. And just lastly, we've got a race app, so if you download the race app, that's a great way to, particularly race time, it's a great way to check out your tracker as well, particularly on the race course, so you can find out where your competition is when it gets dark. So guys, please come and see us if you've got any questions, and it's for you first timers, it's an amazing event, and you'll love it. Thanks.